Well, as it turns out, we do have something to congratulate Rachel Reeves for, and that's bringing people together, regardless of their political leanings, left or right. People seem to be equally frustrated with Rachel Reeves, this government, this budget, what they're doing to the economy, and so on. So much so that she has even brought all of the headlines together for similar criticism. That's quite an achievement. Even the left and the right-wing papers are bringing headlines very broadly the same. Even the Mirror, the Daily Mirror, which has consistently supported Labour since 1945, and The Guardian, which is consistently left of centre and supporting Labour, equally damaging headlines for Rachel Reeves. The Daily Mirror went with balancing the books on the backs of the poor. Similarly, in The Guardian, Reeves accused of balancing the books at the expense of the poor. The Daily Mail went a little bit more blunt than that. Deluded, they say. She claimed to be restoring economic stability and delivering a decade of national renewal. The reality, our growth forecast for this year has been slashed in half, and she's likely to be back for more in the autumn. Financial Times went with a little bit more reality-checking headline. Tax rise fears cloud Reeves' fiscal fix. And the Daily Telegraph, 5 years of record taxes. Of course, there's many, many more headlines that I'm just quoting here, but equally damaging across the board. So what do we really think about all of this? Well, we're going to get a little bit opinionated here, because if you haven't gathered, we're on Black Belt Secrets. Please do subscribe. You get my free-flowing thoughts and opinions on here. As described in my Times article this morning, I'm very pleased to be featured in the Times this morning. I'll link that below. Go and check that out. So please do subscribe here on Black Belt Secrets for some free-flowing thought and opinions and discussion here. And speaking of free-flowing thoughts and opinions and what people really think, we're going to jump into what both Rachel Reeves and indeed Darren Jones think about what's going on with their attack on welfare. So, in short, personal independence payments should be independent of work, regardless that Rachel Reeves has implied, at least in one of her interviews, that it's somehow linked to work. It isn't. Personal independence payments are there to help people and help people in a specific way down to an assessment and criteria. Now, this is being overhauled and it's going to affect lots of people and many children, in fact. It's going to push people not just to the brink of poverty, but pushing some people into poverty. We're going to have a look at what they really think about that, at least in my opinion, based on what I've seen, what they really think about that in this video. And then a little bit later, a broader effect on jobs and other things as well in the second half of the video, so do stick around for that as well. So we read for this bit from The Spectator. I'll link these below as well. This is talking about Darren Jones, Chief Secretary to the Treasury, and then we move on to Rachel Reeves in just a moment. So they say here, it seems that some Labour ministers are in desperate need of some media training. First, there was Seema Malhotra mixing up inflation rates with interest rates. Now, Darren Jones, who by all accounts is her right-hand man, has now managed to sort of put his foot in it, quoted here, regarding the benefit cuts. Now, without further ado, this is exactly what happened and what was said. So this, I suggest, reflects what he really thinks, and then we'll move on to what Rachel Reeves really thinks. Have a listen to this. I'll mute myself. Have a listen.
Just had the impact assessment has just dropped. Now, the average loss for someone on the personal independence payment is £4,500 a year. That's significant, Darren.
I think so I've not seen the impact assessment because, as you say, it's just been published, but my understanding is what the impact assessment doesn't account for is the benefit that you get from our additional money into support for training, skills or work. So take for example, if I said to my kids, I'm going to cut your pocket money by £10 a week, but you have to go and get a Saturday job, the impact assessment on that basis would say that my kids were down £10, irrespective of how much money they get from their Saturday job.
Wow. Where do we start? Bearing in mind, this is number 2 guy to Rachel Reeves, Chancellor of the Exchequer. Now, let's break down what he said for a moment. He's criticising the impact assessment because he's saying that it says that you are down a certain amount of money, because if you lose personal independence payments, you are down that amount of money regardless of whether you go into work. This is the first problem with what he's said. Now, he's criticizing the impact assessment to say it doesn't take into account the money that you might get from going to work, because they say that they're supporting people back into work. So he's saying a problem with the impact assessment is it doesn't take account of that money going to work. That misses the point entirely, because what it's really saying, what the impact assessment is really saying, is the average of £4,500 per person loss is going to impact those people. That is a loss. And he's suggesting that this should be offset by going to work, bearing in mind not all of those people can work, or some of them may already work because, as I said, it's not linked to work, but they may already work. They are saying, well, they're supporting people into jobs, therefore they should be able to earn more money, therefore the impact assessment of them losing that money shouldn't have the impact that it says it does. That's the first problem with that. Because it is an impact, and it is assessing the impact. That's exactly what it's doing. It is saying that these people are losing that amount of money, average per person. Just listen to that again.
Just had the impact assessment has just dropped. Now, the average loss for someone on the personal independence payment is £4,500 a year.
Now, listen to how quickly he dismisses that. He doesn't acknowledge the figure. He doesn't talk about the figure. He just dismisses it immediately and then moves on to why he thinks there's a problem with the impact assessment.
That's significant, Darren.
I think so I've not seen the impact assessment because, as you say, it's just been published, but my understanding is what the impact assessment...
And the second problem with what he says is he's comparing it to pocket money. Now, that's flat out insulting. He's comparing people that are on personal independence payments that have been through an assessment, or they have been deemed to be suitable to receive those payments to assist them in everyday living. He's comparing them with giving children pocket money. Now, this must be a conversation behind closed doors that they've all had, because that's not the only time we hear this. We also hear this, you guessed it, from Rachel Reeves. But I'll come back to that in just a moment. Don't go away. Now, as a very tasty aside, you know that I partner with some companies on this channel, but this one has got to be the tastiest of them all. It's a company called Holy that sponsors my channel and helps support me here, and they do energy drinks, hydration drinks, and iced teas, all in different flavors, and they are absolutely amazing. My favorite of all time is the strawberry and kiwi, but this is a really exciting version because you may be familiar with the German sweet company Hitchies, who do sweet and sour sweets, and they are really nice. So Holy has partnered with Hitchies to come up with 3 amazing flavored drinks. One of them is blue raspberry, there's an orange flavor, and my personal favorite, the cola variety. So I thought I'd do an experiment. Now, this is not what they told me to do. I just tried it out. Ordinarily, you use normal water. This is the strawberry and kiwi. You normally use normal water, but on this occasion, I used fizzy water with the cola flavored one, and it gave me a very near alternative to other dark flavored soda drinks. So this is actually really nice, and a bit of lemon, it makes it feel like a bit of a mocktail. But they are sugar free as well. They also do a range of milkshakes, including banana, vanilla, caramel, strawberry, and hazelnut. And I was overwhelmed as to how good the hazelnut milkshake was. I have a real weakness for anything hazelnut flavored, so that just bowled me over. So if you're a new customer, I suggest you go with their starter set deluxe, because you get a free thermo shaker with it as well, and a whole range of different flavors. But choose what you like, have a field day there, and you will enjoy them. And obviously, as they're sponsoring my channel, you get a great discount. So if you use the code SECRETS, you get a 10% discount off your entire order. Or if you want a straightforward discount, just use SECRETS5, and that will give you a £5 discount off your order. So check them out, buy a range, choose what you like, and lots of little goodies as well. The shakers, the bags, so many great things for you to choose from. So look out for the deals. Don't forget the codes. They're in the description below. And thanks to Holy for sponsoring me with such great products at the same time. Check them out. Right, so back to Rachel Reeves. Listen to this.
Might enjoy it as well. Well, I think one thing that I would say is that, you know, my children and the Chief Secretary's children are too young. But if you have a 16-year-old and you say, do you know what? I'm not going to give you so much pocket money. I want you to go out to work. And then the OBR comes and does an impact assessment and says, your child is going to be worse off. Well, they're going to be worse off if they don't go and get themselves a Saturday job. But if they do go and get themselves a Saturday job, they'll probably be better off, and they probably might enjoy it as well. Well, I think that...
So there you are. She's confirmed that they've had this discussion. I mean, it's obvious they've had this discussion, but the reason for pointing that out, it is not a one-off. It's not a blip of the tongue. This is something that they've discussed in private. Now, it's quoted here to say that he's slipped up when he's said such a thing, but that's not really the case. They've had this discussion in private. They've discussed this on exactly those terms. That's what they think. They compare people that are on these personal independence payments to giving children pocket money. And what they're saying is, we're going to take that off you. You've got to go and get a job. Then you can earn money. Then you won't be worse off because you've gone to work to get the money. Now, as I said, the whole point of this is the PIP payments are not linked to work. Now, reminding ourselves for a moment what the eligibility is. It's fairly straightforward in simple terms. Obviously, then you dive into the detail and you get assessed and so on. But you get these personal independence payments if you're 16 or over, you have a long-term physical or mental health condition or disability, difficulty doing everyday certain things, and you expect those to last for at least 12 months from when they started. Also, you're under pension age if you've not received it before, etc. And then it goes on to discuss, how much you'll get and summarizes that here. And of course, PIP is tax-free, and the amount you get is not affected by your income or savings. So that ought to work both ways around. Now, I agree on the one hand, because there will be a lot of people watching that think, well, we know someone that receives it and shouldn't receive it. Now, that, of course, is arguable. I think quite a few people possibly know somebody that is receiving something that they shouldn't be receiving. Now, that's a different story, but this has to be a careful balancing exercise. But when you hear the way that they really think about this, it does give you cause for concern. But at the same time, now here's the real kicker. They're talking about the impact assessment not having the impact that the impact assessment says it has, because they should go out and get a job. Now, we read today, let's get these stories in a row. This is the one I want to show you first. Reading these in a row, Sky, ironically reported, or unironically reported by Sky News, Sky announces 2,000 jobs being at risk at its customer service centres. Partly the reason they say is that there's going to be less demand for those going in the future, but also they will be doing a cost and balancing exercise, because they're not the only ones to say that they are cutting jobs, because employer national insurance and all of the other associated costs, and thousands of jobs at risk also at British Steel. And of course, many, many thousands of other jobs in many other areas that have been reported are being lost in all sorts of companies all across the board. Not only that, the Institute for Fiscal Studies, who they like to quote now and again, says that there's a very good chance that these taxes are going to be raised again in autumn, which again is going to put pressure on jobs. So you cannot, on the one hand, say this impact assessment doesn't have that impact that the impact assessment says it has because they can go and get a job, when jobs are being cut. There are thousands of jobs being cut. Where are they going to get those jobs? And there's no incentive for employers to employ more people because it costs them more. It's going to cost businesses more. This is absolute GCSE level economics. You don't need to be a GCSE level economist to know that if it's more expensive for businesses to hire people, they will hire fewer people. If it costs more, they're likely to do less of it, not more of it. And we've seen that with the jobs that are being cut. So if the jobs are being cut, it costs more to employ more. And they are saying that the impact assessment needs to be mitigated by people going out and getting work. How and where are those jobs coming from? I suggest it's a bit of a problem that they have on their hands. And not only that, we also have the latest victim of the school VAT and the national insurance costs increase, which is claiming now Moreland School with this sort of heart-wrenching letter here. This family run and backed school, they've put 100,000 odd pound into I'm trying to make it bigger. I can't make it bigger. Maybe if I open in a new tab, maybe that will make it bigger. There we go. They put £100,000 in to try to keep this school going. It's with great sadness that I write this letter to you, and with deep and heartfelt sorrow that I tell you that Moorland Senior School will close on Friday, the 28th of March. That's tomorrow. This has been the hardest decision of my life, and one that I've tried very hard to avoid. We've looked strongly into all of the possibilities of continuing to run Moorland Senior School, at least until the end of the academic year in July, but sadly this is just not economically viable due to a combination of adverse political and economic factors. And goes on to quote the number of independent schools facing closure nationally since the imposition of VAT on fees. Now, many of these schools, I've said many times, many of these schools are struggling for numbers as it is. And the go-to phrase, and I read this morning that Bridget Phillipson hasn't even visited a single one of these schools, which I find quite sickening, actually, if I'm being quite honest. I find it's quite sickening that she's so apparently, in my opinion, so vindictive against these schools that she hasn't even visited a single one. And yet they're all closing. So many are closing, and so many are struggling and on the brink of closing. Now, these are the best of British. Surely we should be championing and trumpeting the success of these schools. We should be propping them up. We should be assisting them. With the money that is saved by these children not going into the state school system at over £8,000 a child, surely they should be supported, not hammered. And instead they are being hammered, and they are closing many of these schools. It's absolutely devastating. I mean, to see the amount of children who are going to lose this school and the community that's going to lose this school, and as a country we are losing many of these schools, this is sickening. Absolutely sickening. And this government is going to have the metaphorical blood of these schools on their hands for decades, if not centuries to come, because some of these schools closing have been teaching for nearly 300 years. One of them yesterday I reported on over 270 years. 270 years of great British history that school was teaching for, and is now closing, among many of them closing. And all, I believe, in a very large part, if not wholly, at the hands of this government, adding VAT to school fees. I think it's abhorrent. I've made no secret about that. I know lots of people that work so hard to send their children there. Those are my views. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do check out Holy. Very interesting drinks. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Please do remember to subscribe to Secrets. You get it as it is on this channel. Help my channel grow. I'm getting close to 200,000 subscribers. It's all down to you. Thanks to you. And also check out my article in the Times this morning. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.